What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Election Analysis 2024, and today we are going to be talking about the state of the race just 78 days until Election Day. We will be going through every single one of the states, seeing where they're at right now, and putting a hypothetical electoral college map for you guys to see. What we're going to do is start by marking the safe Kamala Harris states. That's going to be the state of California, Washington, Oregon. We're going to leave out Colorado and New Mexico right now, and we'll include her normal safe states that, well, we're probably going to see go in her direction by 10 points or more. That's what we're going to see in these states. If I add all these up, we should be right here. We're going to be at 181 safe electoral votes for Kamala Harris. Now I can do the same thing for Donald Trump. You'll see if we do his safe electoral votes, these are states again, he will win by a margin of 10 plus points. We can add all of these up. Nothing out of the ordinary. Really, nothing has changed here. And we'll put him at a total of 126 electoral votes. So these are the safe electoral votes for Donald Trump and the safe electoral votes for Kamala Harris. You may see a lot of states more than my previous predictions or basically evaluations of the election. That's because things have been tightening a little bit. You'll see as of recent, Kamala Harris has been making strides and definitely has the momentum on her side. It's affected practically every state as every state has tightened, and now we're going to take a deeper look. But first, we will go into the state of Colorado and New Mexico, which will both be likely states for Kamala Harris in this aggregate, as well as the state of Minnesota, a state that honestly Donald Trump had a fair chance in against Joe Biden. But then when it was Kamala Harris, she already took the lead. She expanded on that lead that Joe Biden had. And then when she chose Tim Walz, she basically did guarantee the state in her category. And then next we can actually add the state of Virginia as a likely state 5 to 10 point win for Kamala Harris in the state of Virginia and its 13 electoral votes. That is a plus for her. That was a lean state in my last analysis of where the election was. Next up, we have the state of New Hampshire and its 4 electoral votes. That will be a likely 5 to 10 margin for Kamala Harris. And the last state that will be likely for Vice President Kamala Harris will be the state of Maine overall. At large, the state of Maine will be, I would say, really closer to 5 to 6 points right now, but still is a likely margin for her. Now we're going to move on to the likely Republican states. There are a few of them. So we can start with the states of Iowa and Ohio. No doubt there. These are going to be pushing the safe limits of over 10 points. They're probably both going to be around 8 to 10. Right now, with the momentum swing, I can see it going, on the lower end, maybe 8, 9 points. But at the end of the day, you have J.D. Vance in Ohio. Not exactly the most popular guy in the world. He's going to turn out more vote. You're going to see Iowa do the same thing, probably go even right of Ohio. And you're going to see these two states be relatively safe, but still in the likely margin for Donald Trump. Next, we're going to go to the state of Texas and its 40 electoral votes, the second biggest state in the United States. And you'll see overall, yes, things have tightened just narrowly in Texas, but in Kamala Harris's best case scenario, she will not carry the state of Texas. There is just no way for her in an election cycle that is more favorable to Donald Trump than it was in 2020. There is one more likely state, and that is the state of Florida. You'll see recent polls here in the state of Florida showing maybe a little bit of a tightening race as of August 11th polls here than it was in late July and against Joe Biden. But you'll still see Donald Trump holding a very fair and solid 6.3 point RCP average lead against Kamala Harris in the state of Florida. That's where Donald Trump wants to be. Obviously, he wants to get that. I'd say 8 to 10 would be just golden ticket for him. If he is on election night and he's winning Florida by 8 to 10 points, that would be a really good sign for him overall. However, right now it's about a 6 point lead on average in the polls. I expect that to be a little bit bigger on election night, but still a likely win for him nonetheless. These 7 states right here are the states that we will be talking about, well, until election day. Honestly, these are the 7 states that will probably all be decided by under 5 points, and states that are going to decide the election at the end of the day. First, I will start by addressing Nebraska's District 2, which will be a lean margin as of right now for Kamala Harris. I can see it being likely just as much as I can see it being lean. I'd say right now it's about 4 to 5 points. You give it a week, it could be a little bit higher. Not too many polls have been done just in this district, but as of right now, I'll give it to Kamala Harris in a lean margin. So as of right now, with these 7 states left, we have 226 for Kamala Harris and 219 for Donald Trump. And we are going to start in the very important state of North Carolina. If we go over to North Carolina, we'll see a tightening race. Donald Trump up by an average of about 1.2%. This is a state that he won by just about 4 points in 2016, narrowed down to about a point in 2020, and he seems to be right about there. Republicans are typically underestimated in this state. It's been that way. They were saying Joe Biden was going to win this state in 2020, and Donald Trump was able to get 50% of the vote. Just in how this election cycle is going to play out in terms of a more favorable environment for Donald Trump, you're going to see him win this state by a lean margin. I don't know if it'll be as high as they were saying he'll win against Joe Biden. You saw him up in the polls by over 5 points in some polls. I don't think it'll be that high, but I do think he'll win by a pretty good lean margin. I would say 3 to 5 points right now. Polls are showing 1. But with the bias typically North Carolina has, and the voter response bias we're kind of seeing right now just with the momentum Kamala Harris has, there's no doubt she has momentum, but there's no way she's making that much progress that quickly. I would definitely say North Carolina would be a lean state for Donald Trump as of right now. The next state we're going to look at is the state of Georgia, and it's 16 electoral votes. We could head to Georgia now, and you'll see a tightening race in Georgia. Same thing as North Carolina, really. Donald Trump had about a 4 to 5 point lead against Joe Biden in this state. And ever since Kamala Harris entered the race, all you see are these polls that are extremely tight. Donald Trump had the edge. You'll see a New York Times Siena poll, Trump up 4. If New York Times Siena is showing Trump up 4, I would definitely say Trump is up in the state. It's by a 1 point lead. You could argue it would be a tilt to lean state. I'm going to argue that it is a lean state for Donald Trump. I'd say he's up by about 1 to 3 points right now in the state. This is a flip from 2020. And for Donald Trump, if he wants to win the election, Georgia is a must flip for him. There is no way Donald Trump wins the White House without the state of Georgia. This is a must-win state. I cannot emphasize that enough. But as of right now, he has a small lead in it, giving him 251 electoral votes, and that puts him in striking distance. The next state we're going to look at is the state of Nevada. This is a state that has been more friendly to Donald Trump, but on the other hand, from North Carolina, this is a state that overpolls Republicans, a state that overestimates Republicans, and a state that Donald Trump is barely leading in right now. You saw him up about 4 to 5 points. Some polls had him up 10 against Joe Biden. There was no way Donald Trump was ever going to win Nevada by 10, but you'll see these polls against Kamala Harris. All you see is a tight race within the margin of error, and you'll see him up on average by about 1.3 points. You'll see a New York Times Siena poll again showing him up 1. Trump still definitely does have a small lead in the state of Nevada. I have it right now as a lean state for him, putting him at 257, making Michigan and Pennsylvania must-win states for Kamala Harris. But before we look in the Rust Belt, we're going to finish out the Sun Belt with the state of Arizona. This is a state of the most narrowest margins as of right now. New York Times Siena has this at a 5 point Harris lead. There's no way either candidate is winning the state by 5 points. Trafalgar has this at a 1 point lead for Trump, and then you just see alternating polls showing Trump up, Harris up, which averages out to a 0.2% lead for Kamala Harris. As of right now, I do think Arizona is a 100% dead heat. I think it will be one of the closest states in the election. However, I am taking this polling data into consideration right now. Looking at Arizona, I will give it to Kamala Harris by just the narrowest of margins. This is thousands of votes at most. Simply, we are 78 days out. This is going to change marginal-wise, but as of right now, you could say Kamala Harris is a tilt lead in this state, and now we are at the 3 Rust Belt states that will ultimately decide this election. First, we're going to look at the state of Wisconsin and its 10 electoral votes. You'll see these polls have been favoring Kamala Harris just narrowly as of recent. Donald Trump was up about 2 to 3 points against Joe Biden. Kamala Harris obviously came in and was able to take the lead in the state in the average in the polls here. But you also have to take in consideration the response bias. You are seeing Democrats are energized. Democrats are more likely to pick up the phone right now. They're more likely to go out there and simply answer polling questions. And there is no doubt Kamala Harris has the momentum in this state. You could simply look at the voter registration data in the Rust Belt states, and you'll see Trump is up all the way up until Kamala Harris enters the race, and then you'll see a boost for Democrats. So there's no doubt Democrats are energized. This average has it at 1 point. Obviously, the polls aren't going to be 100% accurate, but I do think Kamala Harris does have a tilt lead in the state. Again, just a mere thousands of votes right now if the election were held today. But the state of the race as of right now has her at a tilt win in the state of Wisconsin. Next, we can look at the state of Michigan. This is a state that has been the least friendly to Donald Trump of the Rust Belt states, and a state that I can definitely see splitting off from the Rust Belt this election if it were to be as close as the aggregates are saying. You'll see Kamala Harris up by a little over 2 points here on average. You'll see the most recent poll here showing Donald Trump and Kamala Harris tied. Trump has been tightening this race. It actually was about 3.5 points not too long ago, but you'll see the response bias has been wavering a little bit. Momentum has been slowing down. Momentum is just momentum. It's not votes. And so you'll see the momentum slowing down for Harris and Trump starting to narrow the state again. No doubt she has the lead and momentum in this state right now, giving her these 15 electoral votes by a lean margin, putting her just 8 electoral votes away from the White House. And we have one state left, the state that could ultimately decide this election, the 19 electoral votes in the state of Pennsylvania. This is going to be a nail biter in Pennsylvania. And you can tell by the polling aggregate having it at 47.9% for Donald Trump and 47.9% for Kamala Harris. That is as tight as you can get. These most recent polls, I mean, they've been back and forth. You have a Bloomberg poll saying Trump's up 4. This was in late July. You have Emerson Now, the most recent poll showing Trump up 1. This poll came out just a few days ago. New York Times CNN has Harris up 4, and then Trafalgar has Trump up 2. I mean, you have some very contradicting polls, and what you can really do is take this average and say it's a dead heat. This state is so close, but for the sake of argument, I of course am not going to leave it empty. I'm going to give you guys the full results of where every state lies, and as of right now, taking the response bias into consideration, taking the fact that Kamala Harris still is not an extremely liked person, taking the polling data from previous elections showing Joe Biden up 6 at this point and Clinton up 9, I am going to give Donald Trump the edge in the state of Pennsylvania. I do think he is up by a tilt margin, a very small margin, a margin under 1 point, but I do believe he is up in the state of Pennsylvania, giving him 276 electoral votes, making him the 47th president of the United States. This is the lay of the land right now. As of right now, the popular vote is probably a dead heat. But as of right now, the state of the race, national polls show Harris up just narrowly. However, I think it is a 100% dead heat, and the Electoral College map shows something very similar. Donald Trump win just narrowly, and he would become the 47th president of the United States if the election were held today. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe down below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.